Welcome back to Coast AM. All right, when we come back, we're going to be connecting with Sonja Grace, who is a mystic healer, and she has an incredible communication with her guides where she's able to travel in time, essentially, with her guides to various locations and receive information and messages and bring it back to us. We will communicate with Sonja about 2018 and more. And when we come back, I'm Lisa Gar. You're listening to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM. I'm Lisa Gar. My next guest is Sonja Grace. She is the author of Spirit Traveler, and she is a spirit traveler. She is able to connect with people and even ancient sites and unlock the mysteries of these regions or people and bring those messages back to us and loved ones so we can learn part of our healing process either as a planet or individual. And she is able to really do this distance work all over the world, but just via phone. She can travel. She can space travel. Welcome to the show, Sonja. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's really a delight to get to talk with you.
You too. You're a familiar voice to Coast, and it's nice to have you on as my guest. So, what is a spirit traveler? What do you mean when you say spirit traveler?
Well, okay. My day in and day out work is I'm a healer, and so I'm working on people on the phone, long distance, all over the world. I have clients in Australia and New Zealand and Germany and France and England and Thailand, all over the world. And so it doesn't matter where people are because I have a different relationship to time and space, and I'm able to put myself in front of that person and work on them as if they were there, in real life in front of me. And so out of that process of day in and day out, working with people and helping them emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, my guides, who are high angelic beings, have taken me to places around the world that need some explanation. Sites, so many things in history have been recorded based on what the religion was at the time and what the current ruler wanted everybody to remember them by. And so history hasn't always been recorded exactly as to what happened. And especially ancient history, we have very little knowledge of, certain sites and really what took place. So they've taken me back to these sites, but when we travel, in the same way that I travel to work on people, there's literally a time experience in that we go back in time, and I'm shown these different sites, what happened, what the ceremonies were, who the people were, who the demigods were, and what happened.
You're shown pictures?
I'm literally standing there like I am at the site. I mean, I feel myself travel. It's really intense when I spirit travel, because I literally feel, and it's not astral projecting. A lot of people understand what astral projecting is. I go into meditation, and when I'm in a really deep state of meditation, my body starts to dissolve. It's like it just becomes little granules of sand, and it dissolves. It dissipates into the air, and it's not until that happens that then my guides hold their hands out, and I take their hands, and we go. And I feel myself going. I feel the wind on my face. I feel rain. I feel all the elements. And when we arrive, I'm standing on the site, wherever it is that we've gone to, and oftentimes it is before anything has been placed on this site. So it's bare ground. And then the demigods, the beings that, helped create this place, help the people that we're in a phase of humanity right now that began at the end of Atlantis and Lemuria. And in this phase that we're in, at the beginning of it, this is when they all came through, and they all the different demigods or star beings helped develop different parts of the world. The Hindu gods, the Hopi gods, the Greek gods, the Norse gods. I mean, all of these different demigods that people around the world have worshipped for centuries, these beings are star beings, and they came through and they helped formulate all these different areas, cross-pollinating with the people and creating ceremonies and a way of life for those people to learn. So as this happens, you know, when I go back, I'm standing there on, you know, bare land. I'm at Stonehenge, and
wow.
you know, the demigods come through, and they show me literally like I'm experiencing it all around me, like a hologram, I guess. It's, you know, it's all happening. Then they show me the different stages of what's happened on that land, different types of garnishings, different types of, you know, branches and foliage that was put to mark the site, and then stones, and then the sarsen stones at the very end. And the only reason those sarsen stones were put there is because the demigods said, this is our last gift to the people. This is to remind the people to never lose faith in what we've taught you. We will not be coming back, so this is to remind you that we are always with you. You know, and those stones are definitely, you know, imbued with cosmic energy. I mean, they're really powerful. But, you know, the people, you know, we humans, you know, we tend to forget, and, you know, people started losing faith, and they started freaking out, and they started burying all the high priestesses next to Stonehenge and the important people. Well, maybe they'll go get the demigods and bring them back, you know. So it's interesting. It's been really wonderful for me to share with, you know, all of you listening, and the people who have read my book, and, you know, my students and clients, to share what's happened, the truth of what's happened, so that we can connect the dots. I mean, this isn't some frivolous, oh, let's go back in history and really see what happened. It's so we can really connect the dots and understand what we need to know now. Why is that important? What can we learn from to get it right now?
So have you ever checked back in history or looked for some of these symbols that you see when you're traveling? Like markings or messages and so forth?
You know, the spiral symbol is something that you see on stones, stone circles.
A lot
of spirals. You know, they're in the Southwest. They're in Europe. They're all over the place. And, you know, this spiral symbol is something that I've seen for many times in the sites that I've visited. And by the way, for your listeners, those of you who haven't read my book, I visit Stonehenge, Skellig Michael, which I do want to talk about that site, Tiwanaku, the Gate of the Sun, Hagar Quim on the island of Malta, St. Winifred's Well in Wales, Chichen Itza and the Temple of Kukulkan, the Khafre Pyramid, and the Rock of Cashel. And the reason that I wanted to mention Skellig Michael to the listeners is the most recent Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, is filmed, like, almost, you know, a major part of it on Skellig Michael.
The island?
The island, absolutely. And the cinematography is superb. And I tell you, it was so incredible to have written this book, to have spirit traveled to that place, to have, you know, in my spirit travels, walked that entire island, and just sit there and watch all these scenes. And it was exactly as I experienced it. It was like someone took my spirit travel and put it on film. It was so incredible. And I highly recommend the movie.
Sacred site, huh?
Yeah, it's an amazing site. It was the beehive huts which are these incredible round, they look like beehives, were created by the monks. And the monks went to this island around, I think it was in the late 400s AD, and they created the beehive huts. Everything was done, the stairway that goes up to them, everything that they put on this island was done without mortar. All the rocks, to this day, those stone stairways that you could walk up, and it's very steep, have no mortar. They're just perfectly placed.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were the beehive huts for?
Architecturally, it's an amazing place.
Sounds great. What were the beehive huts for?
That's where they slept. That's where they stayed dry. I mean, it's the west coast of Ireland, so it's just, the weather is wild. And Skellig Michael is actually the top of a mountain, which is now surrounded by the ocean. But during the time of Atlantis and Lemuria, I learned that there's two islands, but I learned that this area was a landmass that connected Ireland to Greenland. And all of that through there was Lemuria. And that was a mountain during the time of Lemuria. So the properties of that island are really pretty special. There's a lot of electromagnetic energy that happens both there, and also I talk about it in the chapter that I wrote on the Rock of Cashel, which is...
What about the pyramids? You have them on the cover of the book. Did you...
the pyramids are everybody knows they're amazing, and they're really, to me, they're something that's talked about a lot, but I have not heard anyone talk about how they were created and what really happened in the way that I saw and experienced.
What did you see?
I believe, and from what my spirit travels were, that there was a race of giants. I'm calling them giants, but they're, really huge beings, giants, in the area of Egypt. And this was, back 800,000 years ago. 800,000 years ago.
It's a long time
long
ago.
Before Atlantis, yes. And giants were all over the earth. There was a group of giants that lived up in, the landmass that was the UK. Anyways, this particular group in and around Egypt, this group was called Mu, M-U, Mu. And in the language of hieroglyphs, it means water. And they were, again, what I experienced in my spirit travels, they were instrumental in building the pyramids. And not only that, they were the ones that built the chambers inside the pyramids. Those were built first, and then the pyramids came second. And those particular, inner chamber, like in the Khafre pyramid, the sarcophagus, that's the transporter. These pyramids are transporters, and they're perfectly aligned with Orion. And they are meant to transport to the 3 stars in Orion's belt. And there were a lot of different things that happened when the Egyptian gods came. Sekhmet was already there. She was there long before the Egyptian gods came, and came from a different race of beings. And she's very instrumental with the Sphinx. The Sphinx is also a transporter or a portal. So it's really outlandish, I'm sure, for some people, especially the more science-minded people, to go, giants, really. But there are remains that have been found. There are so many things that have happened here on Earth that we forget, and we get really narrow in our scope, of what can be thank God for Coast to Coast, because that opens that scope back up again, and everybody goes, oh, yeah, right. There are aliens, and there are giants, and there are these things that have existed. That's why we have folklore. That's why people for centuries have told stories and shared, these traditions, because they're really sharing stuff that originated a long time ago.
Now, your guides, your council of guides, have they identified themselves to you as being from this time period or close to you in your history?
My guides, who are high angelic beings, have been with me through all of my lives. They came through with me when I first incarnated in Atlantis. So yes, they have been with me through each lifetime. And I'm really grateful that that they're here helping me out. But I get asked the question all the time from people, well, who are my guides, and who's helping me, and it's like, it's not that people don't have guides. I think everybody has help, but I think that a lot of times we forget that one of the biggest aspects of the help that we have from the unseen world are our ancestors. Our grandmother, who's on the other side, is the guardian angel and looking after you, and they're helping you. There's so much to that, and in my native culture, that's really where we come from, is your ancestors are helping you.
Your culture, your background is Native American?
Yes, I am Norwegian and Choctaw and Cherokee, and I am also adopted on the Hopi Reservation. And so I've been a part of Hopi longer than I've been, alive. That's my home.
And so any of your beings, are any of them in the Native American tradition?
No, you mean my guides?
Yeah.
No. I work with angels. I had a teacher a long time ago who really helped me form my abilities. I was born this way, and so I always had a hard time as a child knowing how to navigate, because I saw color on people, and I was so visual. I saw the spirit realm as clear. I remember being 2 and seeing stuff. I remember at 5 seeing all kinds of things walk through the house, and so I didn't know how to work with what I had, and she really helped me, and she really helped me to work from a place of integrity. She was very strict. I worked with a group of people, and we had to sit in meditation for 6 to 8 hours at a time.
My goodness.
And her training was very hard.
To see what you saw and identify it?
Yeah, and she works only with angels. She's the one who really taught me that you're going to call on somebody, call on the angels.
Well, we're going to find out when we call on the angels, what we can say and what we can ask when we come back. We're going to take a quick break, Sonja, and when we come back, my guest again is Sonja Grace, and we'll continue our conversation about spirit traveling. I'm Lisa Garr. You're listening to Coast AM. Hello, welcome back to Coast AM. It is officially New Year's Eve. That's great. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. I'm so looking forward to 2018. And my guest is Sonja Grace. We will be back with her in just a moment. I also want to mention that if you go to YouTube and you look up The Aware Show channel, The Aware Show is my regular radio show, and you can go on there. I have thousands of shows on there, and if you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to be notified for new shows when we put them up, and a lot of great guests on there on video, so you can check that out. If you like hearing the audio version here, you can see a lot of our regular shows on the Aware Show channel on YouTube. So check that out. Please subscribe to my channel. All right, we will be right back with Sonja Grace. Welcome back to Coast AM. We're having fun in here. It's New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve to everyone. Sonja Grace is my guest, and she has a great book out called Spirit Traveler, but that is what she does. Sonja, I have a question for you. Can we travel in time as in our own consciousness?
You know, that's a great question. I do not... I teach meditation, and I do really intense meditation retreats where literally people in the retreat get moved. My guides move us into the 6th, 7th, 8th dimensions. We go into different dimensions. And they also move us into higher realms. Everybody feels it. Everybody is completely altered. It's like, we all got high and we didn't smoke anything.
Right.
It's really intense.
Let's talk about some of the dimensions. That's
we spend 4 days in that vibration, and it's really life-changing. And that's the part that I do with people, and that I take them into that place. So yes, I wouldn't call that time travel, but I would call that experiencing a different vibration, a higher vibration.
We were just speaking about this, about dimensions and being able to go in and out of different dimensions, just as I did when I had my near-death experience. I went to a different experience where all things were absolutely seamlessly connected. And it was so clear to me. And that exists all around us. When you talk about these different dimensions, do they exist all around us, above us, in another galaxy? Or where do those dimensions exist, in your opinion?
Where did I leave the Captain Crunch? No, I'm kidding. I wrote a really good book called Become an Earth Angel, Advice and Wisdom for Finding Your Wings and Living in Service. And I describe the dimensions in this book and the realms. And what I can tell your listeners is that at the end of the Mayan calendar, we went from being in the 4th dimension for centuries, and we moved into the 5th dimension. We are in the early stages of the 5th dimension. And if you think about this 5th dimension lasting for centuries, that like we were in the 4th dimension, we're just in the beginning of it. And that's why for some people, especially the really sensitive people out there, it's been hard. People have had really hard things happen because we can't do our lives the way that we used to do it. And I always use the example of a person selling real estate. The way that they did it, and sold real estate back in 1980s, 1990s, is completely different to how they have to operate and work today. It is a completely different experience, and they can't do it the way that they did back then today. And that goes for all professions. And if you are trying, if you feel like you're beating your head against the wall going, why doesn't this work? It's because you're in a higher frequency, and we have to raise our vibration to meet that higher frequency. It's not going to meet us. We have to meet it.
So is time truly speeding up, or is it just the feeling or the illusion of time speeding up?
No, I think that time is speeding up, and I think that we're experiencing such a higher frequency in this 5th dimension that a lot of people are hearing this, ringing in the ears all the time. I mean, I've had 20-year-old people tell me that they've got ringing in their ears, and you don't have tinnitus at 20 normally. The range of people that experience this high-frequency, high-pitch sound is huge. I mean, I've talked to thousands of people with it. So this high vibration does give us a different experience with time. And it also gives us a different experience with communication. We become more telepathic with each other. We become more like, wow, I know Lisa's going to call me. Boom, you call me. Mm-hmm. You did that with me the other day. Wow, I was just thinking about you when you text messaged.
Perfect timing, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like that's the synchronicity that we're all experiencing in this higher frequency. Now, the entire galaxy is in the 5th dimension. And other dimensions do exist, but they are not. What's happening in the fifth dimension is we're getting portals that open up. This did not happen in the fourth dimension, by the way. But these portals are opening up now in this fifth dimension, and other dimensions are within those portals, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, and on. And so we have so much more extraterrestrial visitors coming through because they exist in a different dimension.
And
so
they come through the portals.
Yeah, and they're really coming through to Earth a lot now, like a lot.
Are they able to come in and go back out, or they?
Yes, they can come in and go back out.
Interesting.
Absolutely. I've had people call me for sessions and say, something's happened to our house. I don't know what happened, but our house is totally weird. We have weird things happening. And I'll look, they're in, let's say they're in Michigan. I'll go, do my thing. I'm on the phone. I look at their house. Sure enough, there's a portal over their house. They've got all kinds of alien activity happening in their house. And my guides help me, and we literally are able to move the portal and close it so that the people can have some peace.
Right. I was going to ask.
It's very disruptive.
Are you finding also that people are, there are certain phases where people just cannot seem to create anything, where anything you try, no matter how hard you try, is not going to get created during certain periods of time?
Yes, but more so, I say yes to that, and more so because we're in this fifth dimension, people are having a hard time manifesting or creating because they might not know. They're going to know now because I'm going to tell them, but they might not know yet that in the fifth dimension, when we turn our lives over to being in service, we look up at, Creator and Earth, the Goddess, and we say, okay, that's it. I'm in service. Whatever you want me to be, whatever you want me to do, I'm in service. I'm there. And I don't care if you're laying bricks, you're pouring coffee, you're working in an office crunching numbers. It doesn't matter. It's like that's where all of us in humanity really truly need to be in order to make the transition, because the fifth dimension is a transitional zone. I call it the Great Train Station. It's where it's going to define where we all go, meaning it's a transition. We're gonna find ourselves as we move further and further into the fifth dimension that things are going to change, and we are moving towards what is called the golden era. When we get to that golden era, there will be no more duality. We will no longer measure things outside of ourselves. Oh, that's good, that's bad, that's right, that's wrong. We will truly have arrived to using the inner compass that we already have. That is built in within us. It's in our soul body.
But is it going to get rougher before that particular time happens?
Yeah, a teeny bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to get a little rougher. It is. And, it's sort of like a big cleanse. Cleanses are never fun to do. You feel sick one day, and one day you just feel like sleeping all day. And it's like, oh, God, why did I decide to do a cleanse? But when you're done, you feel really good.
Right.
And, we may go through a bit of a cleanse.
When we're going through this cleanse, so to speak, and 2018, I'd love to hear from your opinion if it's going to be rougher than 2017 or not. What do you think?
I have received a lot of information about this next year, and it's going to be a bit turbulent. There's going to be a lot of turbulence in our government, a lot of changes. We might even see a big change in August. Whatever side of the fence you sit on, I think the most important thing that all of us keep our minds focused on is what do we need, to be in a state of compassion and forgiveness, and to love each other. because in the long run, when there's nothing, what matters is the people. We, the people, are standing together. So there's going to be a lot of turbulence, okay? All that stuff's happening.
Mm-hmm.
August, I think something bigger is going to happen. And then we've got the earth, and we've got earthquakes and tornadoes, and, I think Kansas City and some of those places are going to get hit pretty hard, so batten down the hatch. I believe that there's going to be some really big earthquakes, but I don't see that happening on the Pacific coastline for those of you in LA and those of you up in Seattle and Portland. I don't see that happening along the West coastline, but I do see it on the Ring of Fire. I also want to say, on a more interesting note, that my guides shared with me there is going to be a galactic shift, meaning a shift in the galaxy. And they said from a new world. Okay, so to me this indicates it's someplace out in our galaxy, a world that is a new world, some kind of shift that's going to affect us. And, for
is there a
heaven's sake,
positive or negative?
Pardon?
Is there a positive or a good or a bad feeling with that?
No, it's a good thing. And I was just going to give the perspective that if we were all standing on, Jupiter, looking back at the Earth right now, we'd realize how puny it all really is. But nonetheless, what's going to happen is it's going to open up a pathway, they said, for all travelers. So this is going to expand our horizon for our, star travelers, for us to travel. They said the ringing in the ears will cease when the galactic shift takes place, and they said it's October 11th of 2018. They also said that this world, our world, will become more volatile until people decide to no longer fight. They also said that water pollution will force large treatment plants to be built so that we can have enough water. All of these things are important because we're not there yet. So, things like, we can start doing things to take care of the water now. And I feel like if there's any message I want to give for 2018, it's be proactive in every way, shape that you can. Be proactive with your health, with the planet, with your love, with your forgiveness, with your compassion.
You mean stay ahead of it, be conscious of it. Compassion is I've just been, as I mentioned to you earlier, at the Marianne Williamson New Year's Eve conference for the last couple days, and we did a whole couple hours, like 3 hours today, on compassion and forgiveness, and it's such an important piece. If you truly can have a level of passion and forgiveness for others, then others would have that same level of compassion and forgiveness for you if you make errors or mistakes. So if we could be a more compassionate humanity on this planet, it would shift the tide so much towards everything, nature and animals and people. And
unfortunately, there is historically and otherwise times in history when humanity, seems to lose their minds, and they don't have compassion. And large groups of people are killed. And, animals are killed senselessly. And, things happen that make all of us stop and go, God, what is wrong with the human race? Why is this happening? And so much of it has to do with how we are managing and taking care of our energy. We spend thousands of dollars taking care of our physical bodies, whether we're just buying health insurance or we're going to the doctor, or, we're going being proactive and going to acupuncturists, or, having a session with me and having me work on you. It's like there's all different levels of this, but we forget. It's like we forget to take care of our energy field and take care of our energy in our body. And this has a huge effect on everything, because our energy is connecting with like energy, and the collective energy, when somebody feels fear and that is ungrounded in them, boom, it goes out and connects with the collective fear. And then the whole collective karma wheel starts spinning. Okay, we're going to do fear again. And we as a collective manifest a whole lot of stuff that has to do with our fear. So I that's why I say be proactive. And, everything that I teach and what I work on with my clients is not only doing healing work, but helping them to heal emotionally, to heal those emotional wounds, and to go in at a deep level and excavate where that fear or that betrayal or that abandonment is stored in the body.
Yes, and so in other words, there are things that are going to happen, but the more prepared that we get, the easier it's going to be. Do you think that we should prepare for the extremes being the new normal?
I do. I mean, I think everything, the basis of what I share right now is from the premise that we are literally witnessing dualism split apart. We're seeing things that are really, really good, and we're seeing things that are really, really bad. And it's like it gets amplified. It's getting more and more amplified. And as we face the future together as a people, we are going to see more disease, different types and human, man-made, genetically created diseases. I mean, we're going to see all kinds of stuff come up and affect people. And the best place for us all to be in my humble opinion, is through meditation to be in a state of inner peace. And peace is not outside of ourselves. It's in us. So we have to go into that inner peace through meditation. That's the doorway to get to it, is meditation.
Can we really control things like superbugs through...
Well, what I'm getting at is if you're in a state of peace, you might then be able to step out of the duality experience and observe. It's going to give you a tool to better manage some of this stuff that I'm talking about. I just caught a bug that was man-made, genetic. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing I've ever had, and I learned a lot from it, because now I have had that experience. I can share that with my clients, or if someone else gets something like this. And, it's like I had to practice what I preach, and I stayed centered and stayed in my peace and said, okay, I'm going to get through this.
And you did.
A lot of people are suffering, and a lot of people are in pain and have really, really serious illness, cancers, and all kinds of really hard stuff. And my heart and my prayers go out to everyone out there that's listening, that's suffering and dealing with some kind of illness, but it still brings us back to the same point. It is up to each one of us to create peace, whether we're sick or not. It's up to each one of us to find that peace within ourselves and radiate that out.
Yep, this is a great time to think about that. We're going to take a break. I want you to reflect on that inner peace and think about what Sonja is talking about and what you can do about this, what you personally can do about this. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to learn how to deal with the extremes being the new normal. I'm Lisa Garr, and you're listening to Coast AM. Happy New Year's Eve. Welcome back to Coast AM. I get to officially welcome you to New Year's Eve. And I want to mention I'm currently going through this wonderful seminar with Marianne Williamson, which actually is live streamed. So if you check out her website, which is marianne.com, you can also join the live stream. And there's a whole New Year's Eve lecture tomorrow and a New Year's Eve celebration tomorrow night, which is going to be fun. And so you can participate. There's over 500 people online watching it around the world right now. And also, I am going to be live and in person at the Conscious Life Expo along with our wonderful George Norrie. And I am going to be on his Cosmic Questions panel. I'm very excited about this. Now, this takes place February 10th. It is time enough for you to plan. Saturday, February 10th from 2 to 4. You can check out the website, which is consciouslifeexpo.com. And you just check out the workshop schedule on Saturday, February 10th from 2 to 4. I'm going to be joining George Norrie and many other guests on the Cosmic Questions panel. I'll also be hosting another panel on Sunday, February 11th, the same time. Well, actually 5 to 7. I'm going to be doing a panel that day, so I'll be there the whole weekend. It's going to be always a great time at the Conscious Life Expo. We always have a lot of fun and connect with a lot of great people. All right, so check that out, consciouslifeexpo.com. When we come back, we will continue with Sonja Grace talking about spirit traveling in 2018. Welcome back to Coast AM. I'm Lisa Garr, and happy New Year's Eve. We're watching on the news people who are awake right now decorating those floats in Pasadena with the beautiful roses and seeds and getting ready for the New Year's Day parade. It's amazing. 24/7 operation up to the float and the parade. So it's going to be fabulous. You can watch it on TV. My guest is Sonja Grace, and we're having a wonderful time talking about spirit traveling and how possible it is to travel through dimensions. This whole conversation tonight has been about that, about dimensions that exist all around us. It's just a matter of accessing them and realizing that we live in this illusion of time. And it's been a wonderful conversation, especially as we cross over to the new year, to understand that it's all really a great illusion. My lots of questions coming in tonight, Sonja, but one quick question for you about angels. And one of our listeners was asking, how does she connect with angels? And if you could share with us, how do you connect with angels?
Well, as I said earlier, since I was old enough to remember, 2 years old was my earliest memory, I've seen my guides, and I've seen angels and, Grandma on the other side, spirits. And so I have, through my life in seeing them, then very seriously trained with my first teacher. I had 2 more teachers that followed that. And basically I work with Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, and I call upon the archangels to help me. I call upon all angels to help me at any given time. And I'm able to see them. I see, smell, hear, and feel the spirit realm. And so everything that is in the unseen world, from aliens and, implants, energetic probes that I remove from people's bodies, to angels, to, entities, really nasty, awful things that you don't want to see in your worst nightmare. I see all that stuff and I clear it. I have the ability to clear it. I have been this way for lifetimes. It's what I do. Some of the top people, medicine people, shamans, whatever, call me to clear them. And on my reservation, I'm considered a medicine woman. And I really, it's not an easy road. I've been doing this for 35 years. It's not something that I would ever wish on someone else, although in today's spiritual world, it must seemingly seem oh so glamorous. It's not.
How do you not take it on?
I put my boots on and get in the trenches every day.
Mm-hmm. How do you not take it on yourself, Sonja?
Well, that's been years of work. I ground my energy. I have a grounding meditation that I teach that is the foundation of my work and of all the, workshops and retreats that I teach. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important, as I was saying earlier, that we know what we're doing with our energy. It's the part of the human experience that is needing to wake up. What are you doing with your energy? Where is your energy going, and why? Why, when so-and-so just got upset with you, did you feel energy leap out of your third chakra and go to their third chakra, as opposed to grounding it down into the earth? So yeah, it's this is all, seeing angels is just something that is a part of my gifts and ability, that I see everything in the unseen world. I see all levels of the astral plane.
And
I see the demigods. I see star beings. I mean, I talk to them. All these different sites that I went to in my book Spirit Traveler are talking to the different demigods that created those places. It's the way I am. It's what I was given in this lifetime. It's what I have to do, and
it's your path,
and karmically be dealing with. But I did want to add to what you just said, because it's so cool, Lisa. I get to see you because I'll be at the Conscious Life Expo.
Oh, good.
Too.
Good.
Yes, and I'm doing a lecture on the fifth dimension and alien influence right before your Saturday. I'm from 1 to 2, and then you start at 2.
Perfect.
And then on Sunday, I'm teaching a workshop at 10 in the morning called Living Outside of Dualism, How to Manage Your Energy. And I'm super stoked because I get to see you.
Yay! We get to meet in person. I'm so excited.
I know.
We've been talking for a while now.
I'm so happy.
Great. All right, let's go to some of our callers. We've got a first-time caller, Rick, in Palm Springs. Hey, Rick, do you have a question for Sonja Grace?
Yes. Sonja, you and other time travelers could save this planet, the solar system, and the bonding cosmos, which is affected by what our government is doing to it. They're blocking the sun, which is causing a rising ocean, and we're in the same place. We've lost several islands. There's an island by Fiji that's endangered. Florida's sinking. Anyway, we're in the same place like Shirley MacLaine, who went back there, that we were then. If you could time travel back to Lemuria and warn the government, quit, and permanently quit, or sink and join the lost continents, then we'd be back there where we belong, and tell them that we're coming from the future, and we can vouch that that's going to happen, and it's going to be your future too. Right. And we are Lemuria, but we only have a few bits of our Earth or Lemuria left. If you look at the map, it's mainly ocean. We're the only blue dot, and just a few fragments of solid Earth left. 2/3 of it is lost continents underwater, going on 3.
That's an interesting idea to go back in time.
And if there's no time and it's all consciousness anyway, then Lemuria is right here, and we might as well have it before we sank as after we sank.
Wonderful idea. Sonja, what do you think?
Thanks. Thanks. I appreciate you sharing that, and I feel like there's a lot of things that I have experienced and witnessed by going back in time. But the one thing I'm very clear about, especially being a healer and working on hearts and livers and spleens and gallbladders and kidneys and everything, is that it's God's will. It's not my will. It's the goddess's will. It's not my will. And so I am able to simply show up and be on hand for that energy from Creator coming down through the top of my head, and the goddess's energy coming up through my feet, and that, incredible, thing that happens in the heart where it comes out, and I work. And so going back in time and changing something or altering something is again, it's something that I would have to really put myself in alignment with the will of Creator and say, is this what I'm really meant to do? So I hear you.
We don't want to. It must be, and you can check with the other time travelers. We don't want to sink, and that's why we need to go back to sun worship. Before there was male worship, there was sun worship, and all the male avatars had halos, and the sun worship on Lemuria. The sun is the source of life, and right now most of the economy is attacking the sun, falsely blaming it for warming. The sun does not cause warming, and it's certainly not causing this cold weather, but the guys fighting, attacking it, blocking the sun with chemtrails. Lemuria was a sun worship place, and that is the closest thing to God. It's the sun is the source of life.
Well, I'm from Hopi. We worship the sun. I get it. I understand. And Lisa, I really think that it's important that people understand that there's a balance here. There's a whole grid system that we exist on, timelines and different dimensions and realms, and I mean it's this incredible orchestration of what's going on, complexity in this galaxy and universe, and I am very careful not to interject my will on something because I feel that it should be this way or that way. I'm much more of okay, what do we need to learn here? I mean, I just worked with somebody the other day who ended up watching a video of an animal, a dog, being prepared for a meal in China. And it was heartbreaking, and he was crying. He was very upset. And he said, why? Why does this have to happen? How can people be so incredibly cruel? And I said, animals are here to teach us. They are of a much higher vibration. They are much more evolved. And they are here as our teachers and our healers. And they literally come from a different kind of soul group as from us as humans. We come from a different kind of soul group.
They are angels, in my opinion.
They come from God. We come from God. But, they're of a different group. And when I explained this to him, it really helped because then he understood, okay, so this animal is literally sacrificing itself so that these people can learn, hopefully, what they're doing. And that's the hardest part for all of us, is to get how much humanity is in school. They're young. Our race is young. We're only about 4 going on 5, and we have a lot to learn.
We have a lot to learn. I was just about to say that. Yes. Well, that's a tough one for me to stomach as well.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if we could go to Jody. Do we have time? Yeah. Jody in Hudson Valley, New York. Hi, Jody. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Sure.
And Sonja, thank you so much for all the work that you do. I just have a couple questions. I actually have a million questions, but I tried to narrow it down. You mentioned that the giants built the pyramids, but you didn't say why they built them. But my bigger question was, I wanted to know if the Big Bang was a correct interpretation of our beginning, and whether it is or not, I wanted to know if you happen to know how we got started. And then,
I'm sorry, you're kind of cutting in and out.
I'll paraphrase for her, and we can have you listen to your question here. So, if the Big Bang is how we got started, and the other question was the giants, why did they build the pyramids? Okay. Those two questions.
Okay, well, the giants, the particular race of giants called Mu, were allies to humans. In fact, it was the giants that Baalbek was a landing pad for their race, for them, and they built, thousands and thousands of years ago. They built these sites not only for their own race, but they built them for the people that would then come during Atlantis. They built Göbekli Tepe, and it is the incredible people that were half the race of Sekhmet. They were half that race and half human, and they were the healers. They were the magicians of that time. The giants helped those people. They hid underneath Göbekli Tepe when the Anunnaki came, and they really they were instrumental in helping us. And then there's the group that live underground called the Savrok, the ant people, they're even more instrumental in saving humanity and helping us. They've saved us, I don't know how many times, in providing underground spaces for humans to survive some cataclysmic event.
Mm.
So yes, and as far as the Big Bang,
That's a big question.
yeah, it is a big question. My guides have always said to me that the beginnings of the universe are like threads. Like if you take threads and you put them all together, you end up with a blanket. And so that first thread that you start with to make your blanket is how the universe began. It's like a thread. And it got woven together with other threads until it became what we know as our universe. It's a really big blanket, like infinite big.
Wow. And so this is, and thank you so much for your question. I appreciate it. This is, it has a thread, basically. The conversation that you're having here is we are all connected. And that is what you, all the way from the creation to the pyramids to now to what's happening in 2018. It's basically a very connected conversation.
It is, and I think the naivete of our species is that we are, we're emotionally wounded as children, and we go into that inner child, that wounded inner child, and say, well, why did God let this happen? How could Creator allow this to take place? How could Creator, take my mother when I was young? Or how could Creator take my dog when, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we go into that wounded child and we try to figure out how this could possibly happen, instead of becoming the parents, the inner, mother and father to that inner child, and parenting that child ourselves as adults, and helping that child to get his or her needs met that maybe weren't met by our original parents. And there's no blame to parents. This is a job I think everyone should have, and that is that we parent that inner child. Because once we do that, once we take responsibility on that level, there's no longer the I'm a victim, how could you do this to me, God? There's a responsibility level. Oh, let me comfort that child. Let me tell that child that I will protect her. I will take care of her. I value her. I respect her. I love her. And me, the adult, will deal with whatever's coming down the pike.
That's a good point. We are all parenting either ourselves or young ones.
Yeah.
A lot of great questions coming in. We want to take another break here, but when we come back, we're going to find out more about questions that are coming in about, is humanity going to be okay? Are we going to survive? And a lot of questions that are coming in about real things that are happening around chemtrails and Fukushima, and can your guides help? We will be right back. Sonja Grace is my guest. Thank you so much for being with us tonight here and New Year's Eve. And we'll take a quick break and come back with more questions. I'm Lisa Garr. You're listening to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM. My guest is Sonja Grace. And if you want to go to her website, it's Sonja, Sonja, Grace.com. Sonja, I have a question for you about the lack of rain in Southern California. Basically, there hasn't been rain since February, which is the longest time that there has not been rain in Southern California. Do you know anything about, or do your guides tell you anything about cloud seeding or chemtrails or anything that would be man-made that would be preventing this rain?
No, I think that from what my guides have said, the massive amounts of chemtrails, both in California, I see it up here in Oregon, everywhere, has really had some damaging effects that we're now seeing, which is it isn't raining, and this is part of that. It's also part of our entire global system changing, because there is a lot of melting of ice up north and down south, and there's stuff going on that's pretty big that is a part of the cycle of the planet. But this particular cycle that we're in is accentuated by some of the fooling around that people have done, like seeding the clouds and chemtrails, all that stuff. So
why though would that?
It's a little bit of both.
Why would there be a motivation to not have rain in Southern California? What would be the reason?
Well, usually behind all reasons, there's some kind of money factor
and control,
and control. And my guides have told me that these fires that are happening, although yes, California is very dry, there is a really serious war going on our planet that is, a lot of these fires in California were set by chemicals, like chemical warfare. And many of them still to this day remain sort of a mystery, like we don't know how that started, or there's some lame story like, oh yeah, it was the electrical box, or, and part of what they have shared with me is that because the sanctions have not yet been lifted on Russia, there's sort of a payback thing going on right now. So for all of you who are really deep into conspiracy, there's something to chew on. I do not see these fires being just, not man-made, but, they are man-made. I think they were set deliberately.
Intentionally.
Intentionally. Mm-hmm.
Do you see it getting any better or any worse?
Well, I'm praying for rain. That's for darn sure. And I think that we're going to see a warming trend all over. I think that there's going to be less and less rain and precipitation in 2018. And I do see the water levels rising. I see Florida really kind of getting in some serious trouble this next year. So those of you listening in Florida, get a boat, for heaven's sakes. Really. Except
during a hurricane.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And it's changing all over, and we as a species have really messed with things that I feel, particularly in my native culture, we should not be messing with. And the earth is powerful. She is a goddess. She is a being inside this big round body of hers. This is why when, the first caller said, we worship the sun, we need to get back to that. It's like, yes, if we really had the reverence and respect for this planet that our ancestors had, and the way that they prayed and worshiped and talked to the earth and shared their stories with her, we would have a much different thing happening now. And I'm not saying that scientifically we would not be experiencing the natural cycles that the earth has, because those exist. And we happen to be here experiencing some of that. But I do feel that things might not be as extreme, and certainly we would not have created some of these man-made things that are now having a really adverse effect on us.
Well, there's definitely, there's a lot of both that's going on. It's cyclical, some man-made, lots of chemicals. It's just that where do we go from here? So we actually have to take another quick break. When we come back, we will continue with questions with Sonja Grace. And I am Lisa Garr. You're listening to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM. Happy New Year's Eve. I am Lisa Garr. My guest is Sonja Grace, and we are taking your phone calls. Let's go back to our phones. Is that okay, Sonja?
Yes, of course.
Great. We've got a first-time caller coming in from Wichita, Kansas. Lucky. First-time caller, Lucky. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. It's good to hear you guys.
Yeah. Do you have a question for Sonja?
Yes. Well, first off, I can concur that those chemtrails, we went through 3 years of real bad drought down here. And every time the newsman said, well, it's going to rain, if you've seen a bunch of those lines in the sky, we didn't get anything.
Patchwork.
And then after 3 years, they quit. There was almost none ever. And we got tons of rain. But anyway, my question was about, one thing I'm really concerned about is those reactors in Japan, Fukushima, how they've been leaking all that radioactive water into the Pacific for like 8 years now.
Yes.
I was just wondering if her angels or, ever say anything about that, or how we might get them as a world to ask for help so we can put an end to that.
Well, Lucky, I think it's wonderful that you brought this up, because the one thing that we can all remember is water has consciousness, and we can talk to the water, we can pray with the water, we can ask the water to have some healing come in. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of how much our energy impacts and can help things like the soil and water and the air, everything. And it's important that that we're smart about it. I'm not eating any seafood. Let me tell you, I live in the perfect place for seafood, and I haven't been eating seafood because I know there's high levels of radiation. And I've had tons of clients now with thyroid issues, just lots of thyroid problems here on the West Coast because of the radiation. So I spend a great deal of my time with my guides asking for healing for the water and for the earth. I think each person can do that themselves as well. That you can go into meditation and just let your heart energy fill up that ocean. Give it all you got. Let your intention be the help that is needed for that water.
That is, consciousness could pull water. If the moon does, our consciousness can. So, great suggestion. Thanks so much for the question, Lucky. I appreciate you. Let's go to Eric. Eric in Austin, Texas. Hey, Eric, how's it going?
Hey, Lisa. Hi, Sonja.
Hi, Eric.
I have a very interesting question for you both, or for Sonja, rather. First of all, one quick comment to Lucky. He's not the only one who's seen this pattern. I've seen it for the past 20 years as well, so I can collaborate that. Now, my question is this. I have really big difficulties with the concept of faith and forgiveness. To me, just from my experience, having gone through a whole bunch of stuff in my life, and I won't go into detail, but a whole bunch of betrayal, letdowns, so forth and so on. And I kind of look at this, and I look at lives who've been through a difficult time, and I'm like going, okay, what about faith? What is that supposed to be? What is that supposed to look like? And moreover, what is this forgiveness supposed to look like? Because in my experience, when these two terms are used, and I'm not attacking here, I'm asking a very, very distinct point in the fact that it's like, if these two words are used, it's like you don't have enough faith, or you haven't forgiven enough, and stuff like that, and they border on or even become trite little tools of mind control. How do you rectify that?
Okay, that's a really, really excellent question. And I am with you 100%. It's like, if we don't understand what forgiveness is or what it's even really about, then it's hard to go into that place. But I'll tell you, understanding karma means karma equals unresolved emotional wounds. So whatever you went through as a child, dad left when you were young, mom was never home, you have abandonment, you have betrayal, you have a lot of fear and anxiety, whatever it is, whatever those emotional wounds are, we all have them. Those wounds are directly linked to your past lives, because that's what karma is. Karma is unresolved emotional wounds. When your head was on the chopping block and you were being accused of being a heretic, nobody came to you and said, do you need to talk to the therapist and process this before we chop your head off? So, no, that didn't happen. You got your head chopped off, boom. Shock, fear, betrayal, anger, resentment, all of that stuff. That's what comes with us. And we manifest it again and again and again. Different gender, different country, different everything. And we're so cleverly disguising it, we don't remember where we came from. We don't remember that we had all these other lifetimes, but we have the emotional wounds. So what I hear day in and day out when I'm working with people and grandma or mom or grandpa or brother, somebody on the other side, or they all come through, oftentimes what they want the most is to be forgiven, or to hear the client, hear them say that they forgive them. And it's a big deal in the spirit realm. And I believe it's a big deal because we forget why we're here. We forget that the reason we're here, the mission statement for humanity, is to love at the deepest level of our beings. And it's not just to love our families, our children, our dog, our cat. It's to love everybody around the world as much as we love our own family. And that is a tall order, but that is truly, I feel, the mission statement for humanity. And, when you get into loving people at that depth, forgiveness.
Eric, does this make sense to you?
It does in a way, but the only weakness I see in this argument thus far is that what if somebody comes back to you and and betrays you for a second time? I mean, hence the "fool me twice" axiom. I mean, were we supposed to keep forgiving these people? Are we supposed to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, or what is the definition of?
No, Eric, no, and let me be very clear. I am not arguing with you, okay? But I will say that when you experience something over and over and over, I can't tell you how many clients call me and say, well, when I was 20, he left me, and then when I was 25, that guy, he left me too, and then I got married at 30, and he divorced me. And how come they all keep leaving me? Oh, and they all cheated on me too, and there's that resentment and that pain and that, betrayal and all that stuff. It's because we imprint our parents. We imprint everything about them, all their psychology, from the time we're in the womb until we're 3 years old. And then we start cycling in patterns. Patterns start forming. And by the time we're 4, 5, and 6, we're already cycling with patterns that we learned from those two people. And this is not, again, about blaming parents. This is about understanding what you're trying to work out day in and day out. We spend our entire lifetimes recreating the feeling of those emotional wounds so that we can heal. We set up entire Broadway productions to create the experience so we can heal. So my suggestion to you, Eric, is that you call me up and have a session, and we go back to where this emotional wound started, which I think is around 1 year old for you, and we figure out, go into it and start doing the healing work, excavating that out of your body so that you're not manifesting that betrayal over and over.
And I know you, Eric, and that sounds like an interesting idea. If you're open.
I'll definitely take that under consideration. Thank you.
All right,
okay.
Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Hey, Happy New Year, Eric.
Same to you. Same to you both.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
All right, let's see here. We just have we have about 5 minutes left. And is there anything that you want to mention, Sonja, in terms of upcoming events? You said you've got the Conscious Life Expo coming up with me on the 10th and 11th.
Yes, I will be there. I'm super excited. I'm also going to be in a live show with George Noory in Phoenix, Arizona, in April. I believe it's April 21st, and I will be teaching I've got it's April 21st. It's a Saturday, so if you're in Phoenix or you can get to Phoenix, we'll be live on stage. And then I've got the Journey Expo also in Phoenix in February on the 17th and 18th. So I'll be one of the keynote speakers and doing all kinds of things, workshops, and I'll be teaching in London at the College of Psychic Studies in May. And there's all kinds of events on my website. I'm on. I have a fan page on Facebook, which is Mystic Healer Sonja Grace. So be sure and check in with me there. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram, The Real Sonja Grace. So I look forward to hearing from everybody.
You can check out the coasttocoastam.com website, and you'll see the George Norrie Live event there in Scottsdale, Arizona, April 21st. Sonja Grace is going to be speaking with George and many other guests that day. So that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And there's so much more. I mean, you can look at Sonja's website, sonjagrace.com, and it's SONJA grace.com. Is there anything that you want to leave us for 2018?
I do. I just love you, and I want to tell your listeners and, so many people that I know that have been texting me through the show saying, you go, girl, and I love you guys, and, it just means a lot to me that everybody stayed up and you guys are all out there. I've got a friend in Australia that's listening, and I want to shout out to all my clients in Australia. It's wonderful. Coast has a wonderful community, and I feel really blessed to be a part of it. And I think that 2018 is going to be challenging on many levels for all of us. And I hope that you guys can all remember what I said tonight, that it's really about all of us going into that inner peace and trying to find that balance within us so that we can hold a balance while things are a bit topsy-turvy. Because it really is up to us. We are all connected, and we are all a part of this wonderful community that we live in called Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it does help to hear that 2018 is going to be challenging just because it helps us not be shocked by it and prepare a little bit more for it. And potentially use our consciousness and our collective consciousness to heal it. And I think that's very brave and very wise to do anyway. So thank you so much, Sonja. Lots of great communication tonight, and I appreciate you being here.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Happy New Year to you, too. And Happy New Year to all of our wonderful listeners on Coast to Coast. And I want to say thank you to George Norrie for letting me sit here, and Lisa Lyon as well for having me guest host, and Gina Salvati for answering phones and being so wonderful to all of our listeners. Tommy Dan Hazard, shout out to you, and thank you, Nathan, so much for engineering tonight. And you, especially the wonderful listeners of Coast, thank you for your energy. It is truly what makes this show happen. I am Lisa Garr, and I host a show called The Aware Show. If you want to ever check it out, theawareshow.com. You can listen to my shows on there. And until next time, I invite you all to stay aware. Happy New Year.